meditate perfectly.
That meditate perfectly, which brings up the question, is perfect meditation even possible? What does perfect meditation look like? Or even proper meditation? Let me know down there. That is a legitimate question to you. And to meditate properly from one perspective, this is from the Buddha's perspective, you have to understand what meditation actually is, and you have to internalize the proper form. The Buddha taught this teaching called the 9 stages of resting the mind. It has a lot of moving parts, and I'm going to cover all of it in a series of videos in a playlist. And if you follow it, it can lead to a perfected meditation, what's called equanimity, meditation of equanimity, which is maybe not perfected in a sort of absolute sense, but it's a very, very close to perfect meditation. It's as good as it gets, at least at our level. The screenshot of the chart for all these things, just so you can get an idea of how many moving parts there are, and I'll post the PDF down below so you can grab it and you can look through it, and you can follow along with this if you want to do that. First of all, to meditate properly, you do need a workable definition of meditation. It has to be useful to apply, easy to understand, it has to be memorizable. In fact, it has to be internalizable. You have to be able to make it part of your own character. It needs to be like driving. You can drive for an hour and not even remember driving. It just becomes automatic. So you want meditation to be at that level. You don't have to concentrate on how to meditate. You want the process of meditation to be automatic. As soon as you sit down, you say, yep, just gonna meditate, right? It takes a while to get there. There's something different about meditation than driving. It can take a long time, and you can still forget what you're doing a lot of times, even after many decades even. But the basic idea is that once you think, oh, I'm going to meditate, immediately you know what to do. You don't have to remember, oh, what am I doing? So to meditate properly at home for beginners, it requires that clear understanding of meditational theory and practice. So the 9 ways in resting the mind is, I would say, indispensable. I have studied other systems, the 4 foundations of mindfulness and so forth. And while those are helpful, this one is very comprehensive, very complete, and it can move you through it. Now, without somebody to guide you, if you can just kind of look at it, it can be bewildering, or you can see it as more superficial than it is. This is a very deep teaching in terms of meditation. So what is meditation? Meditation is the process of placing the mind on an object of focus and letting it remain there. Internalize that. The process of letting the mind rest on an object, focus the object, perceive it in the mind, and allowing it to remain there, not gripping onto it too strongly. In the beginning, you have to go a little more forcefully. That's the main instruction. So if you internalize it and don't forget it, and allow it to become a non-conceptual habit, when you're cooking, just focus on cutting your vegetables or whatever you're doing. Make it become an experience rather than an idea. It's, like I said, it's like driving. You don't need to think about it. Ultimately, this is going to lead to what's called yoga. The meaning of yoga is not stretching your body. The meaning of yoga is union. This is the mind and the object in yoga inseparably. This is union, and this will be perceived as equanimity, which is the 9th stage of meditation. We need to explain some of these terms. So, process in the definition means that meditation is an activity. It is not a passive, you're not sitting there like a rock. This counters that tendency to see meditation as just sitting and not really doing anything. In a way, you're not doing anything, but in another way, you're engaged. You are doing a thing called concentrating. We do work closely with the mind in meditation. That should be a reflexive activity. It should just automatically begin to happen. So resting means not to move the focus. We don't start thinking about other things. We don't daydream about vacation. We don't go to work in our minds. We don't do those various things. Concentration means to perceive the object with the mind. I know this is a little tendentious, but it's important to just have a real Yes, that's what we're talking about, to define terms properly. And then meditation can have a lot of clarity and a lot of power and a lot of bliss even that comes from the clarity. When you have that clarity, then you can make very good, very large steps in meditation. Without the foundations, and that's true of any other activity as well, without proper foundations, it's going to be really hard to move ahead. So without those things, the concentration, the activity of concentrating as a stable thing, you're not meditating properly. You're not actually meditating. So essentially, the focus, the ability to focus, remaining with the object, is the defining characteristic of meditation. The mind, in this case, is the consciousness. It's the perceiver, the perceptive capacity. So this becomes an incredibly complex topic, but for our purposes, the idea of the particular aspect of consciousness called mindfulness or focus will be the best starting place. The next definition is the object of meditation. That's whatever the mind focuses on. So that object can be physical, it can be a stick, it can be a statue of the Buddha, or it can be an aspect of the body. It can be the breathing, which is physical, but it's not tangible in a sense. It's not visual. I mean, it can also be a non-tangible, non-physical, visualized object, like a deity. So leaving the mind where it is means it does not wander. The forcing of the placement varies depending on the skill. In other words, at first, you're going to have to do it in a very tedious way. It's going to be a bit too tight. You're going to need to keep the object of focus very small. But doing this, you will train your mind in how to take the next step. So one of the ways is to work with the breathing in the classical Vipassana sense and just focus on the breathing as it exits and enters the nostrils. Very tight focus. It's possible to maintain that. And later it can become very open and relaxed. You can feel the entire process of breathing and you can learn lots of lessons and insights from it. So with this definition in mind, we're going to begin the 9 stages of resting the mind. So that's the topic of the next talk. So subscribe if you like and do those other things like the video or whatever. I'm sorry this is a bit tedious, but it's going to get more interesting from here on out.